She nodded to the band, and they hesitantly followed her lead as she began a song they had only half-heartedly rehearsed, a slow, soulful ballad about leaving and returning about dreams lost and found. She wasn't imitating anyone now. The voice that filled the room was hers, clear, honest, and aching with a bittersweet melancholy that was all her own. She sang of greasy spoon diners and the desert sun of raising a son on her own, of the quiet hope that hums beneath the surface of a difficult life. The noisy bar fell silent. The clinking of glasses stopped. Everyone was listening. She poured every ounce of her loneliness, her frustration, her resilience, and her love for her strange little family in Phoenix into those 3.5 minutes. When the last note faded, a profound silence held the room in its grip for a heartbeat. Then the place erupted. The applause wasn't just polite, it was a roar. It was a wave of genuine, heartfelt appreciation that washed over her, and in that moment she felt a sense of belonging that was as powerful as anything she had ever felt. She looked over at the band. Earl the drummer was grinning from ear to ear. Even Jesse gave her a slow, respectful nod. The rest of the set was electric. The band, freed from the ghost of their old singer, played with a new energy, feeding off Alice's newfound confidence. They were no longer Cal and the Road Tenders with a temp singer. They were a band. After the show, sitting at the bar with a beer, a feeling of deep professional satisfaction settled over her. It was different from the thrill of the musical review. That had been about playing a part about the glitter and the artifice. This was grittier. This was real. This was just her voice and a story to tell. For the first time since arriving in Austin, she felt like she might just belong here after all. Chapter 22. The month in Austin passed in a whirlwind of music and discovery. Alice and the band found their groove, developing a sound that was uniquely theirs, a blend of the Road Tenders' gritty Texas blues and Alice's clear storytelling voice. The crowds grew with each performance, drawn by word of mouth about the new singer who could break your heart with a ballad and get you on your feet with a roadhouse rocker. During the day, Alice explored the city. She walked along the river, ate barbecue until she couldn't move, and spent hours in dusty record shops discovering new music. She sent postcards back to Phoenix almost every day, pictures of the Austin skyline for Tommy, a picture of a longhorn steer for Mel, a postcard covered in musical notes for Vera. She was living the life she had dreamed of, a life measured in songs and sets instead of shifts and side work. And yet every night after the applause had faded and she was back in her quiet motel room, a familiar ache would settle in her chest. She was a singer, yes, but she was also a mother and a friend and a part of something she had left behind. The independence was thrilling, but it was also profoundly lonely. One night midway through her final week, she called the diner. The phone rang for a long time before it was picked up. Mel's a gruff voice barked. It was him. "Hi, Mel. It's me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Who he said, and she knew he was joking. "Oh, the traitor." "How are things?" she asked, smiling. He launched into a litany of complaints. Brenda had implemented a new inventory system that required him to fill out a form in triplicate just to get a can of beans. The new coffee machine was making a weird noise. Henry was complaining that the chili tasted less personal now. "It's chaos," he grumbled. "Organized chaos. It's the worst kind." Then his voice softened just a fraction. "So, how's the singing?" The question was reluctant, as if it was physically painful for him to ask. "It's good, Mel," she said, a warmth spreading through her chest. "It's really good. The band. We're good together. People seem to like it." "Yeah, well," he grunted. "Don't get a big head. You still owe me for that apron you took." She laughed a real happy laugh that echoed in the small motel room. She knew he was lying. She'd left her aprons hanging on their hook. It was his way of saying he wanted her to come back. After they hung up, Alice sat by the window looking out at the glittering lights of the Austin skyline. The gig was almost over. Cal had already told her that if she wanted to stay, the job was hers. They could book more gigs, maybe even do some recording. It was a real offer, a tangible path to the dream she had chased for so long. She had proven she could do it. She was a singer. A good one. The stage felt like home. But then so did the thought of walking back into the familiar, greasy, chaotic embrace of Mel's Diner. The stardust of the Austin music scene was bright and alluring, but the faint, steady glow of the neon sign in Phoenix pulled at her a low, constant hum that sounded an awful lot like home. The question was no longer if she could have the dream, but which dream she truly wanted. The month was coming to an end, and she knew with a certainty that was both terrifying and liberating that she had another choice to make. The air in Mel's Diner always hung thick with a certain kind of hope, the same way it hung thick with the smell of frying onions and day-old coffee. It was a low-grade, persistent hope, the kind that got you through a Tuesday shift and whispered that maybe, just maybe, Friday's tips would be enough for a new pair of shoes. For Alice Hyatt, however, today's hope was a different vintage entirely. It was a champagne, bubbly, nerve-tingling, capital H hope, and it made her 2 hours late for work. She burst through the door, a gust of hot Phoenix air and unbridled energy following in her wake. A stack of glossy posters was clutched under her arm like a sacred text. "Guess what I got?" she announced to the diner at large. Mel Sharples, a man whose physical form seemed to be sculpted from pure, unadulterated skepticism, looked up from the grill. A formidable scowl was his default expression, the baseline from which all other lesser scowls were measured. "Seeing as you're 2 hours late, it better be a note from your mother, co-signed by a notary public and the governor." Henry, a semi-permanent fixture at the counter, swiveled on his stool. "I'll have an apple brown Betty," he confided in a stage whisper. "But don't tell Chloe. I'm breaking my diet." Vera Gorman, whose mind operated on a logic entirely its own, a beautiful, meandering stream of consciousness chimed in from the coffee station. "When she kisses you, won't she notice apple brown Betty breath?" Henry sighed, a man burdened by the complexities of love. "Chloe only lets me kiss her on her birthday, and she hasn't had one in 6 years. Alice, ignoring the ambient chatter, unfurled one of the posters with a flourish, laying it flat on the counter. The smell of fresh ink cut through the diner's greasy perfume. "The Little Palace, Theater Proudly Presents, a musical revue featuring the effervescent Alice Hyatt." Vera gasped, her hands flying to her cheeks. "Oh, Alice, let me see." "Show what show?" Henry squinted at the poster. "I'm doing a musical review." Henry Alice's voice was a song in itself. "It's going to be wonderful. Singers, dancers, musicians, the works." This was not just a show. This was the show. It was the culmination of every night she'd spent singing to her reflection in a streaked mirror, every audition where she'd poured her heart out to a bored casting director, every lullaby she'd sung to her son Tommy that held a secret B-side of her own ambition. For years, her dream of a singing career had been simmering on the back burner, often overshadowed by the immediate boiling over urgency of flipping burgers and paying rent. This felt different. This felt like the front burner. "I love musicals," Henry declared with surprising passion. "In high school, I played the title role in No No Nanette." Jolene Hunnicutt, who had just emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of chili bowls, paused mid-stride, one perfectly arched eyebrow raised. "You played Nanette." "It was an all-boys high school," Henry explained defensively. "Why would they let you play the lead?" he was asked. "I had the best legs in the senior class. Want to see?" A collective "no" echoed through the diner. Alice was beaming, tracing the letters of her name with a fingertip. Featuring Alice Hyatt, it looked so official, so real. It was a tangible piece of the dream she could hold in her hands. "Tell me," Alice Vera said, her eyes wide with vicarious excitement, "how does it feel to be a star?" "Oh, I'm not really the star," Alice demurred, though. "A blush betrayed her, although I am featured in most of the show-stopping numbers." She couldn't help herself. A little do-do-do escaped her lips, accompanied by a shimmy that nearly sent a salt shaker flying. Mel grunted from the grill. "What work in nightclubs you sang twice this year at Benny's House of Veal." The comment was meant to deflate, but Vera, ever loyal, rushed to Alice's defense. "And if there's anyone in the world who could put a song in the hearts of a crowd with veal in their mouths, it's my friend Alice Hyatt." "Thanks, Vera." Alice said, her smile unwavering. "I just loved it when they all joined in. 75 people singing Moon River and chewing their cutlets. It was beautiful." This time it would be different. No cutlets, just a dark theater, a rapt audience, and a spotlight. "This really could be a big break for me," she said, her voice dropping to a more serious, hopeful register. If the reviews are good, this show could run for months. Boy, I'd love to go to the opening night, Jolene said, setting down the chili. Not me, Mel grumbled. I'm not going to spend good money for the theater. I guess Mel isn't much for stage shows, Alice observed wryly. Jolene smirked. Not unless it's got a runway and 4 women rotating their tassels. Alice rolled her eyes, but her spirit was unsinkable. I'm not going to let Mr. Culture get me down. This show's going to be great. And guess what? They're bringing in a big Broadway actor to star in the show with me. A collective gasp went through her small audience. This elevated things. This wasn't just local theater. This was local theater with a sprinkling of stardust. This could be it. The stepping stone. The one lucky break that changed everything. Henry nodded sagely. No, Nanette did it for my career. The night we opened, the personnel director from the phone company was in the audience. And the rest, as they say, is phone biz history. They hired you after they saw you wearing a dress, Jolene deadpanned. Gosh, they really are an equal opportunity employer. Just then, a man with a frantic energy and a clipboard entered the diner. His hair looked like it had been styled by a nervous bird. This was Mickey Rogers, the director, a transplant from New York, who seemed to be powered by anxiety and black coffee. Alice, thank God, he said, spotting her at the counter. He exuded an aura of crisis. Alice introduced him around, her voice swelling with pride. This is my director, Mickey Rogers, a big director from New York. Mel sized him up. Hello, big director. Can we talk, Mickey asked, his eyes darting around the diner as if looking for an escape route from a bad dream. Sure sit, Alice said, her smile starting to feel a little tight. You want a coffee? Terrific. As Alice went to get the coffee, Mickey leaned in his voice, a conspiratorial, doom-laden whisper. Listen, I've got some bad news. Our producer called. He's having money trouble. Alice's heart did a slow, painful dip. Oh, you mean he has to raise more money for the show? Please let that be it. Mickey shook his head, his expression grim. No. For his defense attorney, the words landed with a thud. What? He's in jail for tax evasion. Sam Berman is in jail. Mickey ticked off the aliases on his fingers. Sam Berman alias, Swifty Berman alias, Jose Berman alias, Mitzi McBride. Mitzi McBride Vera whispered aghast. The man must be a master of disguise. Mickey looked directly at Alice, his eyes filled with a pity that felt worse than anger. As of now, we have no producer, no money, no show. We've got to close. Close. The word hung in the air, thick and suffocating as the grease smoke from Mel's grill. The champagne bubbles of hope in Alice's chest went flat, replaced by a cold, heavy dread. The poster on the counter, just moments before a symbol of her future, now looked like a cruel joke. I can't believe this is happening, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The spotlight in her mind flickered and died, leaving only the harsh, fluorescent reality of the diner. If I ever meet that Mitzi McBride, she added, with a flash of fire, I'll scratch her eyes out. She turned to Mel, the dream draining from her face. Mel, could I go home? I don't feel real well. For once, Mel's gruff exterior cracked. He saw the genuine devastation in her eyes. Go, go, he said, his voice softer than usual. Hiccup at home. Vera and Jolene rushed to her side, a protective phalanx of friendship. Here, honey, Vera said, we'll cover for you. Thanks, Alice mumbled, turning to leave. The bell on the diner door, which had chimed so cheerfully upon her arrival, now sounded like a death knell. Henry offered a lift, a kind but clumsy attempt at comfort. If you want to talk, you can tell Nanette all about it. Alice just shook her head, unable to speak. She walked out into the unforgiving glare of the Phoenix sun, the dream of the footlights already turning to dust. Chapter 2. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of muted misery. Alice moved through her apartment like a ghost, tidying things that were already tidy and staring out the window at a world that seemed obnoxiously cheerful. The posters for the show were rolled up and tucked away in a closet, too painful to look at. Her son Tommy tried to cheer her up, but her sadness was a thick blanket that even his youthful energy couldn't penetrate.